When she demanded an open relationship, I foolishly agreed to save our marriage, but soon realized she only wanted a free pass to cheat, and the day I finally walked out without saying a word was the moment she truly understood the weight of her regret. I need to get this off my chest because I can't sleep, can't eat, can't function. My name is Mike, I'm 34, and I just destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. If we're reading this thinking about cheating on someone, love, stop. Just stop. Because what I'm about to tell will haunt forever. It started 6 months ago when Sarah brought the idea of an open relationship. We'd been married for 8 years, together for 12. High school sweethearts who we'd figured out forever. She said she was feeling trapped and needed to explore herself. The words hit me like a freight train to the chest. I still love, she said, sitting on our couch where we'd watched 1,000 movies, planned our future, talked about kids we'd never have. But I need this, Mike. For us. I should have said no. I should have asked for counseling. I should have fought for our marriage right there. Instead I agreed because I was terrified of losing her completely. The most pathetic part, I actually thought I was being mature about it. Progressive, understanding, what a fool I was. Sarah, no time. Within 2 weeks, she was going out 3 nights a week. New perfume. That glow people get when they're excited about someone new. She'd come home at 2 a.m. and slip into bed next to me like nothing happened. But everything had changed. The woman who used to curl against me now slept on the very edge of the mattress. I tried to be okay with it. Really tried. I'd make dinner and eat alone while she texted someone who made her laugh in ways I apparently couldn't anymore. I'd watch her get ready for her dates, and feel my heart a little more each time. She never asked if I was seeing anyone. Never seemed to care if I was okay. That's when the loneliness really hit. Not just being alone, but being lonely while sharing a bed with someone who was supposed to love me. It's the worst kind of isolation, like drowning while everyone around thinks you're swimming. 3 months in, I met Jessica at a work conference. She was funny, smart, and she actually listened when I talked. When she laughed at my jokes, I remembered what it felt like to be wanted. When she asked about my marriage, I told her about the arrangement. She seemed impressed by how evolved our relationship was. What a joke that was. The first time I Jessica, I told it wasn't really cheating because Sarah was doing the same thing. The mental gymnastics I did to justify it would have won Olympic gold. I convinced this was what modern marriage looked like, that I was just adapting to Sarah's rules. But here's what I didn't understand then. Sarah never intended for this to be equal. She wanted permission to cheat while knowing I'd never actually go through with it. She knew me better than I knew. She counted on my loyalty, my guilt, my desperate need to save our marriage. The night everything fell apart, Sarah came home early and found Jessica's earring in our bedroom. Not our guest room, not the couch, our bedroom. The bed where Sarah and I had made love, fought, cried, and dreamed together for 8 years. The look on her face will haunt me until I pure betrayal, like I'd ripped her heart out through her chest. How could, she whispered, holding that tiny silver earring like evidence in a trial. How could I laughed, but it came out bitter and broken. I've been with 3 different guys in the last month. Sarah started this. Not here, she screamed. Not in our bed. I kept my separate. That's when it hit me. She'd been protecting our space while I'd been destroying it. She'd been compartmentalizing while I'd been replacing her entirely. She'd been trying to save something while I'd been burning it all down. The irony was suffocating. I'd been so focused on matching her betrayal that I'd become something worse than a cheater. I'd become a hypocrite, a liar, a man who the one sacred space we still shared. Sarah packed a bag that night and went to stay with her sister. She didn't cry, didn't yell anymore, just moved through our house like a ghost, gathering pieces of it that was already over. I tried calling her for days, sent texts that went unanswered, showed at her work and got escorted out by security. My friends stopped taking my calls after I'd spent hours explaining why this was all Sarah's fault, how she'd forced me into the situation. But late at night, alone in our bed that still smelled like her perfume, I knew the truth. She'd asked for an open relationship, yes, but I'd chosen to down our home. She'd stepped outside our marriage. I'd destroyed it entirely. Jessica stopped returning my calls after she realized I was a mess. Can't really blame her. Who wants to date a man who's crying about his wife while talking about how modern and evolved he is? The divorce papers came last week. Sarah's lawyer wants the house, which is fair since I'm the one who made it uninhabitable. I'm moving into a studio apartment next month. At 34, I'm starting over with nothing but a broken marriage and the knowledge that I'm capable of destroying everything I love. My mom asked me yesterday what happened to us. I couldn't tell her the truth. Couldn't explain that her son agreed to let his wife sleep with other men, and then proceeded to become the exact kind of man she raised me not to be. The worst part isn't the loneliness or the shame or even the divorce. It's knowing that somewhere out there, Sarah is telling people that she tried to save our marriage by being honest about her needs, and I destroyed everything by bringing someone else into our sacred space. And she'd be right. I see now what I should have seen 6 months ago. When someone asked for an open relationship, they're not asking for permission to cheat, they're telling the relationship is already over. They're just too afraid to end it cleanly. I should have been brave enough to say no. Brave enough to for us or let us with dignity. Instead, I chose the coward's path and convinced I was being sophisticated about it. Now I'm sitting in an empty house typing this at 3 a.m., wondering how I became the villain in my own love story. 3 weeks since my last post. 3 weeks since my world imploded. I thought hitting rock bottom meant losing Sarah and signing divorce papers. I was wrong. Rock bottom has a basement and I'm still falling. The first week after she left I actually felt relieved. Sick, right? I told this was what freedom looked like. No more walking on eggshells. No more pretending I was okay with sharing my wife. I could finally be honest about how much I hated the whole arrangement. I was such an. Day 8, Sarah's sister Emma showed at my door. Emma, who'd been my friend before she was my sister-in-law. Who'd helped me pick out Sarah's engagement ring. Who'd been the maid of honor at our wedding. I need to understand something, she said, standing on my porch like she was afraid to come inside. Sarah says brought someone into bedroom. Please tell me she's lying. I couldn't meet her eyes. Emma, don't understand the situation. The question, Mike. Yes, but Sarah was already. The came before I finished the sentence. My cheek burned, but not as much as the shame. Piece of garbage, Emma whispered. She was trying to save marriage. She came to me crying every night because she thought if she didn't give this, leave her for someone younger, she was sacrificing herself to keep happy. What? That's not, she said she needed to explore. She said what needed to hear so wouldn't feel like the bad guy for wanting out. Emma spit. She saw looking at other women, saw how'd gotten distant. She thought if she made it official, at least she'd still have part of instead of losing completely. My legs gave out. I actually sat down on my own porch like a broken man. Sarah hadn't wanted other men. She'd been trying to save us from my wandering eye by making it seem like her idea. She'd been protecting my ego while destroying herself. And I'd repaid her by bringing Jessica into our bed. Emma left me sitting there with that truth. I called Sarah immediately, but her number was blocked. I drove to her sister's house, but she wouldn't see me. I sent a letter explaining everything, begging for 5 minutes to apologize properly. She sent it back unopened. That's when the social media nightmare started. I don't know how word got out about open marriage, but suddenly everyone knew, our high school friends, coworkers, Sarah's family, my family. The group chat from high school was brutal. Always knew Mike was a creep. Poor Sarah, she deserved so much better. Remember how possessive he was in high school. Now this makes sense. They'd rewritten our entire history, 12 years together. And suddenly I was the controlling boyfriend who'd manipulated Sarah into an open marriage so I could cheat guilt-free. The worst part, I couldn't even defend because the truth was somehow worse than their assumptions. Work became a nightmare. I'm in sales, which means relationships matter. Half my clients started avoiding me. My boss, who'd always liked me, suddenly found reasons to exclude me from important meetings. It's not personal, Mike, he said during my performance review. But the Henderson account specifically asked not to work with anymore. Janet Henderson went to high school with wife. My wife, he couldn't even say, ex-wife yet, and I was already losing everything. I tried dating apps thinking maybe I could distract. Every woman I matched with would eventually ask why my marriage ended. I'd try to explain the open relationship situation and they'd unmatch immediately. Apparently, my wife said I could cheat. Isn't the green flag I thought it was. Jessica reached out once. A text that said, I'm sorry about divorce but please don't contact me again. I don't want to be part of whatever this was. Even the woman I destroyed my marriage for wanted nothing to do with me. My mom came to visit 2 weeks ago. Sat at my kitchen table where Sarah used to do her crosswords and just stared at me. I raised better than this, she said finally. Mom, if knew the whole story, I know brought another woman into the bed shared with wife. What else is there to know? I tried explaining about the open marriage, about Sarah's other men, about how complicated everything was. My mom just shook her head. Father and I had rough patches, Michael. Times when we wondered if we'd made a mistake. Know what we did? We talked to each other, we went to counseling. We remembered our vows. This was different. No, it wasn't. Got scared that wife was pulling away, so instead of fighting for her, decided to hedge bets with someone else. And when she tried to make it easier for by calling it an open marriage, took advantage of her kindness and destroyed everything anyway. She left that day without saying goodbye. The isolation is the worst part. Sarah had been my best friend since we were 17. She knew every story, every inside joke, every fear I'd ever had. Now when something happens I instinctively reach for my phone to text her, then remember she's blocked my number. Last weekend I went to our old favorite restaurant. The hostess recognized me and asked where Sarah was. I mumbled something about her being busy, ordered takeout, and ate it alone in my car in the parking lot like some kind of. Our wedding photos are still around the house because I can't bear to take them down. Every morning I wake to pictures of the happiest day of my, knowing I'm the one who killed that happiness. The divorce is moving fast. Sarah wants it finalized as quickly as possible. She's not asking for alimony, just wants her freedom. She's even letting me keep most of our stuff because she says she doesn't want reminders. I should be grateful, but it just makes it worse. She's being kind to me even now, even after what I did. She could destroy me financially, socially, emotionally. Instead she's just walking away with grace and dignity. Everything I never had. I found out through Emma that Sarah's seeing someone new. A guy from her yoga class who apparently treats her like she's precious. Emma told me this not to me, but to make sure I knew I shouldn't try to win her back anymore. She's happy, Mike. Happier than I've seen her in years. Please don't that too. The guy's name is David. I looked him on social media like the pathetic I've become. He's a teacher. Volunteers at animal shelters. Has kind eyes and posts pictures of books instead of himself. He's everything I used to be before I became this. I see them sometimes around town. Sarah glows when she's with him. Actually glows like she's lit from the inside. She used to look at me that way, back when I deserved it. Last week I saw them at the grocery store. Sarah was laughing at something he said, and the sound hit me like a physical. I hadn't heard her laugh like that in years. Maybe I'd never heard her laugh like that. They didn't see me, thank God. I abandoned my cart and left through the back exit like a coward. The worst realization. I think I stopped loving Sarah years ago and just never admitted it. The open marriage, the cheating, the desperate attempts to justify everything, it was all just elaborate ways of avoiding the truth that I'd checked out emotionally long before she did. She knew she'd always known. The open marriage was her last-ditch attempt to save something that was already dead, and I was too selfish and cowardly to put it out of its misery humanly. Instead I turned it into this grotesque thing where we both pretended to be sophisticated while I systematically destroyed every sacred thing we'd built together. Tomorrow is our wedding anniversary. 8 years ago, I promised to love, honor and cherish her until do us part. I broke every single one of those promises, then convinced I was the victim. 6 months since my first post, the divorce was finalized last Tuesday. I thought I'd feel something when the judge signed the papers, relief, closure, maybe even freedom. Instead I felt nothing at all, just hollow. Sarah wore a navy dress I'd never seen before. She looked beautiful and confident and completely like a stranger. When they called us to make it official, she wouldn't even look at me. I was officially less than nothing to her now. Her lawyer shook my hand afterward. Good luck, Mike, he said, and I could tell he meant it. Even people paid to me felt sorry for what I'd become. I've been living in that studio apartment for 4 months now. It's clean and functional and absolutely soulless. No photos on the walls because they're all of Sarah and me. No decorations because Sarah was the one who made our house feel like home. Just a bed, a TV, and a kitchen table where I eat takeout alone every night. Work finally let me go last month. They called it restructuring, but everyone knew the truth. Can't maintain client relationships when half the town knows cheated on high school sweetheart in marital bed. I'm driving for a rideshare company now, which is perfect because I don't have to make conversation with anyone. The isolation has gotten so bad that I actually look forward to picking passengers just to hear human voices, even if they're talking to someone else on the phone. Last week, I picked Emma from the airport. She didn't recognize me at first. I've lost about 30 pounds and haven't been sleeping. When she realized who I was, she went completely quiet. How is she? I asked because I'm apparently a masochist. Emma stared out the window for a long time. She's engaged. The words hit like a physical. I actually had to pull over because my vision went blurry. To David. 6 months, Emma said quietly. He proposed on the anniversary of their first date. She said yes immediately. 6 months. Sarah had needed 6 months with a good man to know she wanted forever with him. She'd needed 12 years with me to realize she'd made a mistake. She seems happy. I managed to say she is. Happier than. Emma paused, then said the thing that destroyed me. Happier than she ever was with Mike. That night, I drove past our old house. The new owners had painted it yellow and planted roses in Sarah's garden. There were children's toys in the yard. A family lived there now. People who probably loved each other properly. I sat in my car across the street, remembering the day we'd bought that house. How excited Sarah had been about the big kitchen. How she'd talked about the kids we'd have that we'd build. I'd been excited too back then, before I became the kind of man who destroys everything beautiful in his. The porch light came on, and I drove away before anyone could see me. Even my grief had become something creepy and wrong. I found out about the wedding through social media. Like everything else important in my now, Sarah's cousin posted photos from the engagement party. Sarah looked radiant in a way I'd forgotten was possible. David looked at her like she was miraculous. I used to look at her that way. In high school and college, in those first few years of marriage. When did I stop? When did she become something I took for granted instead of someone I cherished? The worst photo was one of Sarah laughing with her bridesmaids. Emma was there, and Sarah's college roommate, and her work friends. All the women who'd supported her through our divorce, who'd probably comforted her while she cried over what I'd done. In the background I could see Sarah's parents talking to David's family. They looked happy. Relieved maybe that their daughter had finally found someone worthy of her. I'd met Sarah's parents when I was 18. They'd welcomed me into their family, treated me like a son. I destroyed that relationship too. They'd never speak to me again and I couldn't even blame them. 3 weeks ago, I ran into my old friend Jake at the grocery store. We'd been best man at each other's weddings. I thought maybe it'd be mutual understanding. Mike, he said, and I could hear the disappointment in his voice. Hey Jake, how's Rebecca? She's good, pregnant actually. He paused. Look, man, I need to ask not to contact us anymore. Rebecca doesn't feel comfortable with around the baby. My own best friend thought I was dangerous to be around children. Jake, I never anyone. I just brought another woman into marriage bed while wife was trying to save relationship. What exactly do you call that? I called it a lot of things in those days. A mistake, a misunderstanding, a mutual decision that went wrong. But standing in that grocery store facing the disgust of someone who'd known me for 15 years, I finally called it what it was. I called it betrayal. I said. Jake nodded. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. He walked away without saying goodbye. That night I did something I should have done months ago. I wrote Sarah a letter. Not asking for forgiveness or trying to explain. Just acknowledging the truth. Sarah, I know I'll probably throw this away without reading it, and I don't blame. I just need to say this once, even if it's just to an empty room. We're right about everything. The open marriage was an idea. It was a desperate attempt to save us from my wandering heart. Saw me pulling away and tried to make it easier for both of us. Instead of fighting for what we had, I took the easy way out and convinced I was being modern about it. When I brought Jessica into our bedroom, I wasn't matching betrayal. I was committing a completely different kind of, kept compartmentalized to protect what we still had. I destroyed the last sacred thing between us. Spent 12 years loving a man who didn't deserve, and I spent 12 years failing to appreciate the most beautiful gift I'd ever been given. I hope David knows how lucky he is. I hope he treats the way I'd have from the beginning. I hope have the always deserved. I'm sorry isn't enough, but it's all I have. Mike, I mailed it to Emma's address, knowing she'd give it to Sarah if Sarah wanted to read it. Emma texted me 2 days later. She read it. She said to tell that she forgives, but she never wants to see again. Even in her forgiveness, Sarah was kinder than I deserved. Yesterday was what should have been our 9th wedding anniversary. Instead, it was just another Tuesday in my empty. I spent it thinking about parallel universes, worlds where I'd said no to the open marriage, where I'd fought for us, where I'd been brave enough to love her properly. In those worlds, maybe we're planning our 10-year anniversary trip. Maybe we have the kids she always wanted. Maybe I'm still the man she fell in love with in high school instead of the stranger who destroyed everything. But those aren't the choices I made. The hardest truth. I think some part of me wanted to sabotage our marriage. The responsibility of being loved that completely, of being someone's whole world, it terrified me. So I found elaborate ways to prove I wasn't worthy of it. Mission accomplished. I'm 35 years old, divorced, unemployed, and completely alone. My family barely speaks to me. My friends have written me off. The woman I loved for half my is marrying someone better than I'll ever be. This is what choosing selfishness over love gets. This is what happens when take a gift like Sarah's devotion and throw it away for temporary excitement with someone who didn't even want in the end. To anyone reading this who reckons themselves in my story, stop. Whatever thinking of doing, whatever justification or building, whatever arrangement, seems like a solution, just stop. For relationship or end it honorably. Don't become me. Don't become the cautionary tale that other people tell their friends about what not to do in marriage. Don't become the man who had everything and chose nothing instead.